This is Armenian Armed Forces Colonel of the Reserve V Vardanyan. It's a report from a video seminar held on March 22nd this year with the Armenian community of Moscow, where he presented a conditional scenario for the creation of Western, Central, and Eastern Armenia today. Armenian Armed Forces, Colonel of the Reserve V Vardanyan, will try to present to you one of the almost irrational programmatic ideological scenarios of the NTI states of Armenia, through which, with the right development of events and constructive cooperation with a number of states, firstly, it will be possible to lead the Republic of Armenia out of the current deep civilizational crisis and establish close and real civilizational cooperation with them. After that, the Armenians will also be ready to assist the authorities of the Russian Federation and the United States of America. Since, according to our observations, the aforementioned two superpowers do not seem to have found a real way out of the crisis, there is a high probability that many of you may smile magnanimously at this seemingly naive, perhaps even seemingly arrogant suggestion of mine, or be puzzled and surprised by how this Reserve Armenian Armed Forces colonel, representing a broken, poor, and semi-independent Armenia, dares to be so arrogant that, in addition to underestimating superpowers such as Russia, the USA or China offers them such kind of incomprehensible offer. Concretizing what has been said, I will first try to present the prerequisites of this, at first glance, rational scenarios, the proposals of the three Armenians, as well as everything that we can see from the Armenian highlands. According to our observations, almost no country in the world currently has any ready-made scenario, recipe, for a way out of the current global civilizational crisis. From Yerevan, we are offering irrational solutions, so to speak, which I think will interest not only our compatriots living in Russia, but also all representatives of the intelligentsia living in the Russian Federation and concerned about the fate of their own country. Regardless of their nationality or religion, there is a vague hope for a way out of this general chaos, thanks to the victory of Donald Trump's team in the recent elections to the United States of America, especially thanks to their constructive statements, which we also positively received in Armenia, thinking that the criminal permissiveness of globalists would finally be put to an end. At the same time, it should be noted that the 3-month events in the United States show that the Trump team also does not seem to have an effective plan to overcome the current global crisis and return to real civilizational values. Since the current ruling U.S. administration is not acting so effectively and correctly, and is also moving forward with indecisive decisions. Since it has not yet been clarified which specific countries or peoples, other than American voters and Israel, intend to lead the United States and the world out of this global crisis. I will say that upon preliminary observation, it becomes obvious that the U.S. authorities will try to implement their political program, mainly relying on Christian Protestants and Zionists. I think it would have been more effective if the United States, in addition to Protestant Christians, had also relied thousands of years ago on a nation originating from the Armenian highlands, in particular on the Armenians, who also brought civilization to the Anglo-Saxons. Whether anyone agrees with this idea or not, the Armenians were, are, and will be the leaven of this sacred cause of civilization. The United States has one of the most powerful strategic research institutes in the world, which also knows about the above-mentioned truth. Since the world's largest Armenian studies centers are located in the United States and the United Kingdom, we also think that the United States should reconsider its current strategy. Otherwise, with this approach, they can achieve only minor success and ensure short-term progress. Since the globalists are still strong and patient enough, if we follow the current approach, it is obvious that Trump will only be able to temporarily stop the current decline of civilization within the country, including in terms of perversions, which is very important, but not enough. With this approach, it is impossible to find fundamental geopolitical solutions. The situation in Russia is slightly different, but almost similar. Armenia is an intertwined reflection of all this. When I say leaven is a nation, I mean that the Armenians were formed in the Armenian highlands and live in their homeland, have been spreading civilization throughout the world for thousands of years. It is probably also for this reason that we have lost our vital and energetic areas of the Armenian highlands. Also, as a result, we were divided, forcibly converted to another religion, and were subjected to periodic pogroms, as well as genocide. It should also be noted that the Armenians, who spread civilization all over the world, have remained and still live in almost all these countries of the world. It is also obvious that Armenians living in different parts of the world and countries continue their mission in these countries. Moreover, Armenians continue to reconcile and unite different peoples, nations, and nationalities, and develop science, economics, and other vital areas. Armenians play the same role in Russia, which many people don't like. This is a well-known historical reality. When they wanted to weaken a country, first of all, they expelled the Armenians from there. Tsarist Russia and Persia did the same. The same thing is happening in the Middle East today. In the end, we as a nation must understand that, in addition to spreading civilization, we are the ones who harmonize the peoples of the world with each other, without which it is impossible to ensure development, especially in the civilizational sphere. It is also no secret that the demand for Armenians is great today because Armenians, besides being scattered all over the world, are familiar with the value systems and customs of all peoples of the world, religious denominations. Having lived in these communities for centuries, they fully participated in all the processes of their development, in good and bad days. In this marathon of historical development, Armenians have harmonized with almost all peoples of the world and actually practice almost all world religions. In our case, in terms of population, the largest in the world, however, is the Armenian community, which professes Christianity and Islam. There are more adherents of Islam somewhere. About half of the Armenians living in the world are usually Christians. After the famous historical tragic events of the beginning of the last century, the other half of Armenians today practice Islam. According to a study by experts, about 80% of Turks, Kurds, Alawites, and other ethnic groups living in the territories from Ankara to the current border with Armenia are of Armenian origin. In Turkey, the Turkish ethnic group itself makes up 2 to 3%. Besides Christianity and Islam, there are also Armenian communities professing Buddhism, Hinduism, Zoroastrianism, and other religious trends. The teachings of ancient Armenia, the god Tyrus, have also become widespread, and the number of his followers is growing in Armenia, both in the West as well as in Russia and other countries of the region. There are also assimilated strata of a large number of Armenians who know or are gradually beginning to reveal their Armenian roots, genealogy, and genetic affiliation. So the shortest and most effective way to get out of the current civilizational crisis is to rely on world Armenians, whether they live in Russia, the United States, or anywhere else. Therefore, it is advisable to implement this program scenario, proposed by the three Armenians in cooperation with both the continental and individual countries of the Atlantic civilization. In particular, it is advisable to start it together with the Russian Federation, the United States of America, or possibly also with China. If their political elites recognize that initially, for thousands of years, ancient civilizations were guided by spiritual, scientific, and material value systems, strictly observing the hierarchy of governance. The social system, in accordance with the hierarchy, was headed by wise men who carried spiritual values, which gradually changed over the centuries. As a result of the changes, today's world is ruled by representatives of the wealth system, which occupies the third level of the hierarchy market relations. Today, even the public administration systems of the superpowers are guided by this system of values. More than today, it is extremely important to cooperate in a system of values of a new moral quality, since only through joint efforts can realistic civilizational solutions be found, and the current geopolitical crisis trap can be overcome with honor. To be fair, let's also state that the change in spiritual, scientific, and material levels was carried out at coordinated spiral stages of development. In the next cycle, we will again move on to the spiritual value system, which of course, we, in particular, the members of the Hermes Club, should be prepared for. I think our task is also to participate in this process of restoring spiritual, scientific, and material value systems, rather than waiting and remaining solely in the role of an observer. We must also realize that the Armenians cannot sit idly by and isolate themselves from this process, as this is the very civilizational mission they have left unfinished. But on the other hand, we understand that we will unwittingly face serious challenges, as the question will arise. What can the Armenians do alone? Obviously, apart from the fact that this is beyond our strength, it is a rather serious and responsible process. Besides, how can we single-handedly change this value system that is ingrained all over the world?